On the last episode of Alpha, the Antonio story, Peaches didn't care anymore. Antonio went to pick her up, and she did drugs in front of him. They had an exchange and got into the car. Unexpectedly, Peaches starts snorting coke. And when Antonio threatens to put her out, she grabs the steering wheel, causing the car to swerve and cocaine to fly everywhere. The cops roll up and Peaches gets locked up. Peaches doesn't get much time, but she has to go to jail. In her absence, an opportunist informs Antonio that Cream played a role in Peaches' situation. Oh yeah, and Cream was tricking too. And now, Chapter 20, Outthinking. Narrated by Shandora Warren. Music by Epidemic Sound. Saying I was mad was an understatement. However, I understood that I had to play it cool. This is the thing. I realized that I had grossly underestimated Cream. As far as I initially saw it, she was a beautiful, dumb girl. There was nothing dumb about Cream. She just didn't speak well. Cream always knew what she wanted, and she meticulously thought about how to get it. But what she didn't count on was me outthinking her. And Cream's inability to see through her own ambition created leverage for me. So a plan was hatched. It may seem to be a bit much to some people, and I won't disagree. It was an elaborate plan, but it was necessary. There often comes a point in time when you have to pull rank, and that was one of those occasions. I decided to give Cream everything she wanted, allegedly, and Peaches had to pay the price for getting onto teams with her. Peaches would be locked up for 6 months, so her apartment was unoccupied. I moved all of Peaches' things into a cheaper apartment, telling her that I needed to cut expenses. Without either of them knowing the situation, I moved Cream into Peaches' nice apartment. Cream spent all her time gloating and thinking that I was taking care of her. I was, but it was all a part of the plan. I needed Cream to leave her apartment. I allowed Cream to stay in the nice apartment for 5 months. I paid for everything, and I didn't encourage her to dance at the club. Ivory told me that she wasn't really tricking much because I was paying for everything. As a result, Cream didn't have a dime saved, and that's exactly what I wanted. By the time Peaches was about to be released, I was ready to roll. I sent Cream on a trip for the weekend. When she returned, all of her belongings had been moved out of the nice apartment. She, too, had been relocated to the apartment complex where I moved Peaches. And let me tell you, it wasn't nearly as nice. That was the plan all along. The women had worked together to benefit from what I was building. Yet, they had no idea about real partnership. They were both out of order. Peaches thought she could benefit from trusting Cream behind my back. Cream tried to benefit by devaluing Peaches in my eyes. As the alpha in the situation, I needed to make a judgment call. If they wanted to work together, I decided that they'd be placed together. Not only would they be placed together, but they would be of equal standing. They'd officially reside in the same apartment complex. Peaches no longer had the claim of the better living arrangement. Once I put the plan into action, I told Cream that she was officially one of the tricks, since she wanted to trick. If she tried to resist, she'd be offered the same beatdown that Peaches got from the goons. Cream was pretty good at recruiting, so I allowed her to remain in that position. But otherwise, her job was to help me get my money back up. So just as Peaches lost her ability to claim the better living arrangement, Cream lost her claim of being the woman on top. I was no longer looking at her like the beautiful, well-kept woman. She was just like Peaches, someone who served a purpose. Peaches would recruit dancers to make money for me, and Cream would recruit prostitutes for the same reason. It was much deeper than simply getting back at the women. I want you to understand that. It was becoming obvious that we were like a family. We were toxic and messed up at times, but we were a family. The women weren't the biggest fans of each other, but they were both dead set on staying with me. And even though they had done me dirty, I wanted to remain attached to them. Factually, I still loved and felt protective of both. They were willing to accept the situation, so why wouldn't I keep it all together? However, they couldn't just run amok. It was time for something essential to happen. Placement in the familial hierarchy. It was just like that nature documentary that I watched when I was 13. We all needed to have a place. That's the only way things could work. I was the leader, the alpha male. At that point, Cream was the obvious choice to be second in line. Peaches was impulsive, and she had messed up too much money, so she was at the bottom. Neither of them had two nickels to rub together, and that's where the other part of the animal hierarchy comes into play. Gorilla families don't just live together. They depend on each other for survival. Members of the family are responsible for feeding and grooming each other. They watch each other's babies. They even extract insects from each other's skin. Without this action, any one of them could easily become infected and possibly even die. Maybe it was time to change the dynamics between the women. They were both solely dependent on me, but I decided that they should lean on each other, by will or by force. If one of them needed something, I'd force the other to do it. If they resisted, I'd remind them that the goons were always willing to do my bidding. I won't ever say that it was normal or even fair. However, we were a family. It was the true nature of hierarchy. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow Shinny Tells a Story on Facebook and Instagram. I love to hear from you. If you'd like to purchase books by Shandora Warren, they're all available on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and some in hardback formats. Please like and follow this podcast and share it with your friends, family, and frenemies, because all relationships matter, even the toxic ones. Thanks so much for helping me to create the world that I want to see. This is my 10th book. Oh yeah, you're welcome.